Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Ethan Bonar, the founder of CFO Family Reporting. Their mission is very simple: to serve their clients as a strategic operating partner dedicated to managing their data. They design, build, operate, and optimize cutting-edge data platforms to support businesses. Many institutional investment offices lack the resources to hire and retain data management experts. CFO Family Reporting provides a solution by restructuring access to these experts at a fraction of the cost. Ethan, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take us on a little trip down memory lane to before you started your company. What were you doing at the time? And then what was really the motivation behind starting CFO Family Reporting?
So my background is in investment advising, so a emphasis on multifamily office, so complex, ultra high net worth families. I did that for about 20 years and dealt with some extreme complexities. One of the problems that I had always was gathering data as it relates to these families. And once I sold that company, which was back in 16, I went off and did completely other things, forgot about that problem, ran companies 180 degrees different, water related in West Texas, consulted for the country of Panama in their agricultural department. Really, what I did was build companies and organize these smaller companies, as I'll call them.
Hmm.
Smaller from a staff force for sure. After I termed all of that, which happened right about the time COVID did, as a matter of fact, of course, like everybody else, I was sitting at the house twiddling my thumbs and wondering what I was going to be when I grew up again. And my wife motivated me by saying, "Hey, you need to go do something." And so I'm a problem solver, and I wanted to solve the problem that had plagued me before, which was this gathering of data from these disparate systems. And the traditional methodologies of doing that were expensive and stale. So I said, okay, how can I help these complex families have control of their data or get it organized, have ownership of it? And that began the process of looking at what's out there. And I had a good idea from my investment days what types of software were out there, what was available. And these were the traditional things that got used: performance reporting systems, usually financial planning systems, which included some document retention and miscellaneous things like that. Nevertheless, these systems didn't usually capture everything. And not necessarily to the fault of the system. In a lot of cases, it was getting all that information together was complex. It was time consuming because families had this information in different places. Stepping out and looking at, okay, well, what softwares are out there, what's available to help with this was one of the beginning steps. And as I did that, I really came to the realization, I firmed up what the real problem was. The initial piece that needed to be solved was data ownership and data sovereignty. What I mean by that is if you look at a complex family, they should run similar to a business. And this is what single family offices do. They're just really businesses run by the wealth of a single family. But as a business, in order to make effective and efficient decisions, you have to have access to your data and you have to have timely access to it. And in order to do that, you have to own it. So if you look at any real successful business, they own their data. The CFO doesn't have to stop and go out to the CPA and ask the CPA for information and
Mm,
wait for the CPA to respond. Or they don't have to go to the CIO, and just wait and wait. They don't go outside of the organization, the entity. And typically that's what these families end up having to do
mm,
is they have to rely on the investment advisor and the CPA and the attorney. And so again, you can see you have these disparate pieces of information. Oftentimes they don't communicate very well, but regardless of whether they do communicate well with each other or not, very rarely do these families own that data.
mm.
So if you look at the organization of it, it's done by systems that are owned by somebody else.
Yeah. Um,
So the family doesn't own it.
yeah.
They may have access to it, but if they fire that group they're working with, they don't get to keep it. Again, normally because the licenses are owned
Wow.
by the group that's running the system.
Wow. Interesting.
My process was, okay, how can we get data ownership in these systems? So let's say the license needs to be with the family. Usually there's a big hill to climb for that. One being cost. There's a big disconnect between, let's say, using something like Monarch, for example, which is a system that kind of helps you pull things together, your data and your information, and the limitations of that as it relates to a complex family that owns entities upon entities, trusts that own entities. You get that type of complexity. Those systems don't work very well. They have a lot of limitations. They're priced appropriately.
Yeah.
Then you go into the traditional things, which are performance reporting systems. And all of a sudden now you look at a system that costs $70,000 a year and you have to run it yourself. And that's a huge uphill battle.
Mhm.
So maybe a single family office with $1 billion of worth and an entire staff can do that, again, running like an operating business. But a ultra high net worth complex family that might be worth 20, 30, 50, $100 million, they typically don't have a full staff to do that. They don't have the resources to figure out what is functional and what isn't functional. And again, that's just one piece.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk to things like accounting, and I break them into two categories: performance reporting systems that let you slice and dice your metrics, accounting, which is your bookkeeping and entity transactions, and then everything else in between. And
Mm.
in between is an enormous amount of different systems that solve singular problems. And it gets really confusing and
Yep.
then really costly. And then how do you make these systems talk to each other is the real secret sauce.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for breaking that
Yeah.
down. I feel like you've clearly articulated the problem that these ultra high net worth individuals and these families go through. So I'm curious for you, when it comes to your company, are those your ideal customers? So a family office or an ultra high net worth individual that doesn't own their data, or is there anything else that you would add to that?
Complexity. I can give you an example. Let's just say there's a family that's worth $100 million. And of that $100 million, 95 million of that is tied up in their operating entity. So that's value, that's their business that they have. They have all the staff, they have all the reporting, they have all their C-suite already. They don't have complexity beyond that. Their personal complexity is not very deep. So when you have that same family that may have exited, has a liquidity event, now all of a sudden, typically they lose their staff, they lose their C-suite, And now you're trying to grasp at straws, and your options are limited as to what you can do quickly. And typically, people end up in that situation with what's considered a multifamily office, and those offices are driven by registered investment advisors most of the time who are billing an asset management fee. And again, they own the systems.
Mm,
Therefore, they're going to own your data. And that's okay as long as you understand that and you're okay with that.
yeah,
And there is a lot of value to be had in that. My intent is to separate that and say, okay, family, you own the data, you own the systems. You can have somebody like me run the systems for you, and then you can supply that data to those experts that you need, which are the investment advisors, the tax advisors, the accounting advisors,
mm,
all of the important advisors in your suite that you need to access. You can provide that data to them directly instead of them providing it back to you,
okay,
and feel comfortable that if one of them isn't doing their job, just like in your business, you can fire them and you don't lose all of your information and your data.
it's huge. That's
It
huge.
is.
So it sounds like that's your core offering is helping them build that system and creating that performance reporting systems, accounting, bookkeeping, entity transactions, data ownership, data sovereignty.
Document retention. Again, I can go down a huge
Yeah,
list, but mainly it's being able to have everything about you and your family together
got it.
and accessible whenever you need it. Because as we all know, you don't need all bits of information all the time. But when you need that piece of information and you can't get it, that's when problems occur. So having the ability to access it, know where it is, and have it be secure.
Yeah, I love that. Walk me through what does a typical client engagement look like for you? So how long do you guys work together? If you're comfortable getting into pricing, I'd love to get into that, but if
Sure.
not, no problem.
The typical client is engagement is somebody typically reaches out to me. It's either through a warm introduction, one way or the other, is normally how they show up on my doorstep because they've expressed a problem. A lot of my families I deal with come from the software companies themselves because a family might start looking for solutions to a particular problem, and the software company does a demo of the software and they say, I love it, but I can't run it. I don't know what to do with it. Maybe it's too expensive. And they'll refer them over to me for an evaluation or help in some form or fashion. And so I spend time up front with families talking about what it is that the output needs to be, what their problems are, and work backwards with them. What are they using currently?
Mm,
Can we just gain efficiencies and be more efficient with the systems they have? Do things need to be replaced? Does the important item that they say they need, is it really an important piece? Or maybe it's just a buzzword.
yeah,
AI is one of those buzzwords. It's fantastic when it's functional, but there's no reason just to say I'm going to have an AI system here just to have an AI system. So we work backwards and we look at what are all the problems? What are all the issues? What are we really trying to solve for? And I spend a lot of time up front. I don't charge for doing that. I find that if I do that and I take the time to really understand the problem, then I know that I'm going to have the correct solution for them. I'm not going to lead them down a path that we have to then change over here. So we're looking at initial problem and then also stepping back and saying, okay, if we solve this problem right here, well,
mm,
maybe these three things will solve this problem. This one, though, is going to create a problem over here and over here. So by solving this problem, we've just created two more problems. Do we want to use that solution? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, very focused approach, which are some of these in between, these niche systems that say, okay, I'm going to solve this particular problem, whatever it may be. Doesn't do anything else outside of it and may not create any other value. Or it may be the exact perfect thing and the only thing that they need.
Mm,
But you don't know that unless you take the time to look. So having a real deep understanding of what it is that they need from an output standpoint, and then building backwards to say, okay, here are the solutions that fit that. And I'm software agnostic, so I don't care. I don't come with a pre-packaged solution. I don't care what systems get used as long as they're functional and they fit for that family. I go back to my investment days where the saying was there's not a single investment that fits every person. It's not going to be the best investment for everybody out there. And it's the same thing with software. There's not one single solution that solves everybody's problems. So each person is different, each family's different, each structure is different, each their needs are different. Simply as looking at what I described as $100 million family that has two completely different needs. And if
yeah.
all you do is base it on an asset level, you miss the real point of what it is that the family needs.
Yeah. Walk me through, you mentioned I'd love to shift over to the client acquisition piece and lead generation, the marketing. You mentioned
Sure.
it's mainly referrals or some sort of introduction from a software company. Is there anything else that you do on a marketing front to bring in more clients?
I write articles. I usually have a blog, but I most of the articles that I write, most of the things I write are on LinkedIn. There's not a big avenue in this market for marketing to families because there's a big trust factor involved in what I'm doing. And I don't believe in the traditional marketing structure for what I do. So me positioning myself as an expert is the best marketing that I can do. And what ends up happening is the more that I publish and write, the more people come out of the woodwork and go, oh, okay, I know somebody over here who needs what you've described. They have this exact problem. Let me introduce them to you.
Interesting.
And so that drives more business than any other type of marketing that I have tried out.
What have you tried out that you haven't found to be effective? Is it like paid ads, email?
Well, yeah, paid ads, and it's not that it's not effective, it's just not as effective, and there's a big gap between it for me.
Mm,
I sit in a position where I'm trying to be agnostic, unbiased. I don't care what software you use. I don't care what investment person you use. I don't care what tax person you use. I don't care what CPA you use. My job is to be independent and help you gather all your data into the systems, get it working appropriately, and give you what you need and give these experts what they need out of your data. And
mm,
so, marketing in the traditional sense, well, what I'm doing is new. It's conceptually new. There are very few of me out there. So what I found is it's difficult to define out what it is that I'm doing in just an ad. It really is more of specific problem, a specific person who says, yes, I know that's a problem that I have, or I know that's a problem so and so has, and I'm going to make the introduction to you. And so I found that is much more cost effective for me to position myself as an expert and let the other experts funnel people my way.
got it. It's interesting you say specific problem with a specific person because when we think of copywriting, and we do a lot of marketing for different coaches, consultants, agencies here at Closers, we have a 3S formula of specific problem for a specific person
Mhm.
in a specific way. And when you articulate that in copy, it's very effective, especially
Yes.
Facebook nowadays. You don't really need as much targeting as people think. Sorry, you were going to say something?
You don't. You're spot on. And I believe that in the service industry, and that's what I'm in, is a service, then I believe that carries a lot more weight. And that positions yourself as an expert is really what it's doing. And I believe in it wholeheartedly. I think I think there are tons and tons of experts out there that can articulate what it is they're an expert on. And
Yeah.
listen, I am one of those. And I don't enjoy writing. I absolutely hate it. I'd rather have surgery on my foot than write something. So it's taken a lot for me to even begin to do that. But I can tell you the minute that I had copy going out that was even snippets that talked about problems and solutions to problems on a public forum, not an ad, but on a public forum. It didn't take 30 days. And I was asked to sit on panels,
Wow.
be an expert in webinar panels or in physical event panels. So the need is out there for these groups to have experts, and they're looking for experts. So I believe in that 100%.
Yeah. When you think of your vision over the next 12 months and where you want to take CFO Family Reporting, do you have any aspirations to grow it, scale it? Are there specific revenue targets? What does success look like for you over the next 12 months?
For me, success is going to be expanding my bandwidth without having to hire physical people. So leveraging the technology that that I preach to these families, automating processes, automating procedures, automating the day in, day out tasks that will allow me not to have to manage a person, but still have the free time that I need to have and travel with my family and do all the things that make me happy personally. So it's not necessarily I haven't put a dollar on it and I haven't put a number of clients or number of families. Um, More so of how it makes me feel. And I know that's not when you talk about, listen, it was hammered into me for years and years. When you're doing goals, you've got to be held accountable and you have to have metrics and you've got to have your goals outlined. And I do believe that is true. But at a certain level, you have to enjoy life
Yeah.
and you have to breathe and you have to not spend all your time managing people. And I learned that years back managing people. And I decided that any business that I built out going forward was not going to be managing people. It was going to be managing the relationships that I have with whatever clients I was dealing with, whether I was out in West Texas monetizing water for landowners. I had personal relationships out there building that company, the government of Panama consulting on their agricultural projects. I had personal relationships. I wasn't managing a bunch of people. I automated everything I could automate. I outsourced the functional pieces that could be outsourced so that I could be one on one as much as I could with the end user, the client, the family, whatever you want to define them as, and then have the time to enjoy for myself my life and the things that make me happy.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that. I'm curious from a selfish perspective. Like I want to know what you have to what your answer would be to this because I'm a younger guy and obviously I have aspirations and goals in my life.
Sure.
Do you think your current frame of how you're looking at your life, your business is because you've achieved a certain level of success and now that offers the luxury to be able to just take the foot off the gas and just be like, you know what? There's more to life than this. Like, what would you say to the younger version of you? What would you say to somebody who's young today who wants to strive for more, who is ambitious and wants to accomplish all these things? Would you tell them to have a particular certain level of balance in their life? Or would you say, hey, there's a season where you should just go nuts?
That's a difficult question because I do believe there is a time where you're going to have to give it your all. And typically that time is in your younger age. You have the energy to do it. You have the physical ability to do it. You have the brain power to do it. You have all of those things. So I would say somebody who has an entrepreneurial spirit and has ambition is always going to have to work in their business. And even to this day, at 9 o'clock at night, if I think of something, I'm going to go and I'm going to make my note or I'm going to go check this. I try and be respectful of family, but it still happens. Yes, once you reach a certain level, you can feel comfortable about being at that level. Most people can reach that level. Some people will never be happy with what they have. But at some point you do. What I've realized is that I'm not ever going to be as young as I was. I'm not ever going to be as fast as I was. I'm not ever going to be as strong as I was. What I have is I have an enormous amount of knowledge and experience in my head that I want to share. And I find when I share that, helping younger people to succeed with their ideas and their direction, if I can share that openly, then usually there's value that comes back to me for it. I feel better, but I can't tell you the number of businesses that I have ownership in, some sort of equity in, because I can use what I've experienced through life in order to advise and direct individuals and companies that are younger that need my gray hair. So I haven't necessarily taken my foot off the gas in the traditional sense. I've just been able to shift it over. I have cruise control under control a little bit better.
I love that. I love that. What is the best way for people to reach out to work with you in some capacity?
You can go to my website, which is cfofamily.com. And but the best way is just to email me, Ethan at cfofamily.com. That'll get to me the quickest.
Awesome. Ethan, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I wish you much success and everybody out there.
Thank you so much. So that wraps up another insightful episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to go to cfofamily.com. You can email Ethan, Ethan at cfofamily.com. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner and you're looking to scale your business and really enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to discover how we can support your growth journey. Until then, keep on climbing.